When you wake up in the morning, your brain doesn't ask, what's going right? Most people are conditioned to immediately scan for problems. Maybe it's stress about work, money, relationships, or simply the overwhelming pace of life. That morning mental scan becomes the filter through which you experience the rest of your day. If you start your day focusing on what's wrong, your emotional state follows. Frustration, anxiety, restlessness, these become the background music of your life. But what if you could interrupt that pattern? What if, instead of defaulting to what's missing, you trained yourself to look at what's already present, already working, already beautiful? That's where the power of gratitude comes in. And this isn't a fluffy concept. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. Gratitude is one of the most grounded, a scientifically backed habits that has the power to fundamentally shift how you experience life. It is the discipline of noticing what's there instead of obsessing over what's not. When you take a moment, even just 2 minutes, to direct your mind toward gratitude, you override your brain's natural negativity bias. This is the survival instinct that evolved to keep us alert to threats. But in a modern context, it often keeps us stuck in a loop of stress and dissatisfaction. Gratitude doesn't deny life's challenges. It simply prevents those challenges from becoming your identity. Instead of being consumed by what you lack, you begin to access the richness of what's already around you. Now, here's where it gets even more powerful. Gratitude is not just a mental shift, it's a biochemical one. When you genuinely feel grateful, your body releases a flood of neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, those same feel-good chemicals associated with pleasure and well-being. It's like giving your brain a dose of natural medicine without a prescription or side effects. In this state, your heart rate slows, your breathing deepens, and your stress response settles. This isn't just a mood change, it's a full-body experience. And here's the secret to unlocking this shifting. It's not about listing generic things. Saying, I'm grateful for my family or I'm thankful for my job doesn't move the needle much unless you feel it. The real magic happens when you get specific and when you attach emotion to the moment. Think about how your child looked at you yesterday when you made them laugh. You remember the moment your partner reached for your hand when you needed comfort. Picture the warmth of that morning coffee and how it felt in your hands. These are the details that spark the emotional connection. That's when gratitude stops being a thought and starts becoming a felt experience. Another critical dimension of gratitude is how it interrupts comparison. We live in a world designed to make us feel like we're not enough. Social media, advertising, and even casual conversations often revolve around what people have that we don't. It's easy to fall into the trap of feeling behind, less than, or excluded. Gratitude dissolves that illusion. It grounds you in the truth of your own abundance. It shifts your awareness from the highlight reels of others to the deep value of your own journey. Suddenly, the question isn't, why don't I have that? It becomes, how lucky am I to have this? Gratitude also has an incredible ripple effect on relationships. When you regularly appreciate the people around you, not just for what they do, but for who they are, you create a culture of connection. You notice their efforts, their quirks, their love languages. You stop taking them for granted, and in return, they feel seen, valued, respected. This is how trust grows. This is how bonds deepen. A grateful heart doesn't just change your internal world, it elevates your external one. And here's something most people overlook: gratitude fuels resilience. Life will hit you. That's not negotiable. There will be setbacks, heartbreaks, disappointments. But someone who practices gratitude is able to weather the storms differently. They still feel the pain, but they don't get swallowed by it. They have an anchor. They remember that even in the darkness, something is still working. Something is still holding them up. That sense of perspective becomes the cushion between chaos and collapse. It doesn't erase difficulty. It just gives it context. When you live in a state of gratitude, you begin to see opportunities instead of obstacles. You become more creative, more open, more resourceful. Why? Because you're not operating from a place of scarcity. Scarcity narrows your vision. It tells you there's not enough. Gratitude expands it. It tells you there's more than enough, and it's already within reach. This mindset attracts different decisions. It attracts different people. It attracts a different quality of life. Gratitude is not an emotion reserved for special moments. It's a practice, a daily discipline that anyone can cultivate. You don't need a perfect life to feel grateful. You need a trained mind. Because gratitude doesn't just come from what's outside, it's a choice you make from within, no matter what's going on around you. Once you build the habit, once you train that internal muscle, you start noticing beauty and possibility everywhere you look. The things that used to drain you lose their power. The things that uplift you multiply. And that shift from lack to abundance is the doorway to a level of happiness most people never realized they had access to all along. There's a powerful connection between how you move your body and how you experience your life. Most people don't think of movement as emotional fuel. They think of it as something reserved for weight loss goals, fitness routines, or chasing some distant version of themselves. But the truth is far more immediate and impactful. The way you move today, this almond, can completely alter your emotional state. Your physiology drives your psychology, and when you understand that, you realize that movement is optional for a better life. It's essential. Think about the last time you felt stuck, mentally foggy, or emotionally drained. Chances are your body was still. Maybe you were hunched over a screen, lying in bed, or sitting for hours with no release. Your shoulders slumped, breathing shallow, energy low. In that state, it's nearly impossible to access confidence, clarity, or drive. Why? Because your physical posture and internal biochemistry are signaling stress, stagnation, and defeat, and your emotions obey that signal without question. Now reverse it. Imagine what happens when you stand, take a deep breath, stretch your arms above your head, or break into a short burst of movement. It could be a walk around the block, a 5-minute flow, or even just bouncing in place with intention. What changes? Everything. Your blood starts circulating, your nervous system shifts, your brain lights up with oxygen. Movement doesn't just energize your body, it rewires your mood outlook and ability to respond to life's challenges. This is why daily movement isn't about fitness goals. It's about emotional resilience. When life throws something at you, a setback, a hard conversation, a heavy decision, your ability to bounce back doesn't come solely from mindset. It comes from what your body is prepared to handle. Resilient people don't just have strong beliefs. They have strong systems. And one of the most powerful systems you can build is the habit of daily. You have attentional movement. What's important to understand is that this movement doesn't need to be complicated. You don't need a gym membership, fancy equipment, or a personal trainer. You need consistency. You need to move with purpose every single day, no matter what else is going on. Because when you do, you train your nervous system to regulate itself. You train your brain to access better emotions. You show yourself again and again that you are in control of your state, not at the mercy of it. There's deep science behind this too. When you engage in physical activity, even for a short period, your body releases endorphins. Those natural feel-good chemicals that improve your mood and lower your perception of pain. You also boost dopamine and serotonin, which are critical for motivation, focus, and emotional balance. In fact, some studies show that consistent movement can be just as effective as antidepressants for treating mild to moderate depression. This isn't just a motivational idea, it's biological fact. Your body is wired to feel better when it moves. Beyond the chemical shifts, movement also creates momentum. You can't wait to feel better before you act. You must act your way into feeling better. If you start your day in motion, you send a message to your mindy, I'm ready, I'm alive. I'm in charge. And that message sets the tone for everything else. You handle stress differently. You think more clearly. You interact with others from a place of strength, not reactivity. There's also something sacred about movement. It becomes a daily ritual. It turns into a form of meditation, a space where your mind and body can reconnect. In that space, clarity emerges. You hear your own thoughts more clearly. You feel your emotions more honestly. You're not numbing or escaping, you're processing. You have a screwed up life. Moving through something physically helps you move through it emotionally. And this kind of movement isn't limited to exercise. It can look like dancing in your kitchen, practicing yoga, shadow boxing, walking with intention, or simply standing up and stretching when you've been sitting too long. What matters most is that you're disrupting the physical stillness that keeps emotions trapped. Energy must move. Emotions are energy in motion. When you refuse to move, that energy stagnates. But when you get your body involved, you allow that emotional current to find flow. When you build a lifestyle that includes movement, you also change your relationship with discomfort. You stop running from it. You learn to face it, breathe through it, and expand your capacity to hold more pressure, more responsibility, more opportunity. That's emotional resilience in action. It's not about avoiding difficulty. It's about becoming stronger than it. And physical movement is one of the fastest, most reliable ways to train that strength. Too often, people search for complex solutions to simple problems. They want a breakthrough, but they ignore the basics. Movement is one of the basics. And it's one of the most underused tools for creating a happier, more energized life. When you use your body with intention, you unlock states of being that no amount of thinking alone can produce. You free yourself from mental spirals. You access new levels of vitality. You wake up dormant parts of yourself that were just waiting to be activated. You don't just feel better. You become better day by day, movement by movement, breath by breath. One of the biggest myths holding people back from happiness, fulfillment, and personal power is the belief that change must be massive, that you need to turn your entire life upside down to feel better. That unless the shift is dramatic, it doesn't count. People wait for the perfect moment, the ideal conditions, or some lightning bolt of transformation to strike before they take action. But that kind of thinking is a trap, because the truth is the real power lies not in the big moves, but in the small, intentional, consistent ones. Lasting change is not created in a moment of hype. It's created in the quiet moments. When no one's watching, when there's no applause, when the choice seems insignificant. It's created in the daily disciplines, the subtle upgrades, the tiny habits that compound over time. Most people underestimate the power of small steps because they don't deliver instant results. They want the feeling of progress right away. And when they don't get it, they quit, not realizing they were inches away from momentum. Every time you make a micro shift, whether it's choosing water over soda, stepping outside for a breath of fresh air, writing down a thought instead of bottling it up, you cast a vote for the person you are becoming. These small choices build identity, and identity shapes behavior. When you start seeing yourself as someone who follows through, someone who takes care of their mind and body, someone who shows up even when it's hard, you start to embody those qualities without needing to think about them. They become your new baseline. This is where most people go wrong. They think they need motivation to act. But in reality, it's the action, especially the small daily kind, that generates motivation. Action creates evidence. Evidence builds belief. Belief fuels more action. It's a loop. And the entry point to that loop is not some massive overhaul. It's the smallest step you're willing to take consistently. Let's say someone wants to be happier. They think they need to quit their job, move to a new city, or start over completely. And maybe someday that kind of leap will be part of the journey. But that's not where it starts. It starts with waking up 5 minutes earlier to breathe. It starts with writing down 3 things they're grateful for. It starts with a 10-minute walk or a call to someone they care about. These actions seem small, almost too simple to matter, but done consistently, they create a shift in identity, perspective, and emotional state that no massive life change can offer on its own. You don't climb a mountain in one leap. You do it one step at a time, one handle at a time. If you try to rush it, you fall. But if you keep moving even slowly, you rise. The people who reach the summit in any area of life, whether it's emotional wellness, relationships, health, or purpose, are not the ones who move the fastest. They're the ones who didn't stop. There's something powerful about showing up for yourself in small ways every single day. It rewires your brain to trust yourself. It silences the inner critic that says, you'll never change, because every day you follow through, you have proof that the critic is wrong. You're not waiting for motivation. You're creating momentum, and momentum is what makes the impossible feel possible. It's also important to understand that big changes are often unstable without a foundation of smaller habits. If you suddenly change everything overnight, your nervous system goes into survival mode. It's not sustainable. But if you start layering one small action on top of another, your system adapts, it gets stronger, it adjusts gradually, and before you know it, the person you used to be doesn't match the life you're living anymore. Consistency also gives you leverage. A single action might seem small on its own, but repeated over time, it becomes powerful. A single drop of water doesn't look like much, but drops over time can carve through stone. That's the power of persistence. And when your habits are aligned with your values, when they reflect the life you actually want, it's only a matter of time before the results show up. What's beautiful about this truth is that it puts power back in your hands. You don't have to wait for permission. You don't need to overhaul everything. You just need to do what you can, where you are, with what you have. Maybe today it's one new choice. Maybe it's one better question. Maybe it's a 5-minute pause instead of a 5-hour meltdown. Whatever it is, if you repeat it with consistency, it begins to transform how you think, how you feel, and how you move through the world. Big change often feels exciting, but it also comes with risk, instability, and the potential to burn out. Small change done consistently is quieter, but infinitely more sustainable. It's the tortoise in the race, slow and steady. It builds character. It teaches discipline. It forges the kind of strength that doesn't rely on circumstances but comes from within. Small, consistent actions teach you that you're capable of creating the life you want, not by flipping a switch, but by turning the dial slowly, steadily, and deliberately every single day. Most people try to change how they feel by changing what they think. They try to reason their way out of sadness, stress, overwhelm, or anxiety. They get stuck in their heads, believing that if they just think positively enough, if they just analyze their problems deeply enough, they'll somehow break free. But the truth is, your emotions don't just live in your mind, they live in your body. Your emotional state is not something you can fully solve at the level of thought. It's something you must influence through your physical state because the two are directly and inextricably connected. Look at any powerful emotional experience: joy, grief, anger, love. You feel it physically before you ever put words to it. Anxiety isn't just an idea, it's a racing heart, a tight chest, shallow breaths. Confidence isn't just a thought, it's upright posture. Steady eyes, a strong voice. Your emotions are reflected in your posture, your breath, your facial expressions, your muscle tension. And the incredible thing is the connection goes both ways. If you can feel a certain way because your body is reacting to something, you can also shift your body in ways that begin to change how you feel. This is where many people miss the opportunity. They try to mentally push through emotional lows, but they ignore their posture, their breath, their movement patterns. They slump their shoulders, tighten their jaw, furrow their brow, and then wonder why they feel stuck or drained. They haven't realized that their body is keeping the emotional state alive even when their mind is trying to move past it. The loop between body and mind keeps replaying because the body keeps sending the signal that says, we're not safe, we're not calm, we're not okay. But just as your body can hold you in a low state, it can also lead you out of it. When you shift your physiology, you shift the message you send to your brain. That's why the fastest way to change how you feel is not to sit and think, it's to stand up and move. Change your breath, roll your shoulders back, stretch, jump, shake out your limbs, smile, even if you don't feel like it. These aren't empty gestures. They are physical triggers that send new signals to your brain, telling it to release different chemicals, to shift into a new state of being. This is not about pretending. It's not about faking it. It's about using what's already available to you, your body, as a tool to influence your emotional reality. You don't have to wait for a positive thought to appear before you act like a happier version of yourself. You act your way into the state you want to feel. Your body becomes the lever that lifts your emotions into a higher space. Even breathing alone is a game changer. Shallow, rapid breathing keeps you in a state of fight or flight, constantly alert, reactive, and defensive. Deep, slow, rhythmic breathing activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for calm, rest, and healing. Something as simple as 5 conscious breaths can lower your heart rate, regulate your emotions, and center your thoughts. Yet most people go through the entire day without ever taking a moment to breathe with awareness. Energy also plays a major role. If your body is tired, sluggish, or sedentary, it becomes far more difficult to access empowering emotional states. Low physical energy often mirrors low emotional energy. But when you activate your body, your emotional system comes online. You start to feel more alert, more alive, more ready. This is why athletes often describe entering a flow state not by thinking their way in, but by moving into it. They allow their body to lead, and the mind follows. Another aspect that's often overlooked is how posture impacts self-perception. When you sit or stand in a collapsed posture, your brain interprets that as a position of defeat or withdrawal. But when you sit or stand with openness and alignment, head up, chest open, spine tall, you naturally start to feel more confident, more in control. This isn't magic. It's biology. Your posture influences hormone levels, cognitive performance, and mood. Small shifts in how you carry yourself lead to big shifts in how you perceive yourself. In moments of emotional overwhelm, the body becomes a stabilizing anchor. If you've ever felt panic rising in your chest or anger building in your shoulders, you know how physical these emotions can be. But instead of getting swept up in the feeling, you can use your body to ground yourself. Plant your feet, lower your shoulders, take deliberate breaths. These are not passive reactions. They are active choices that regulate your internal world. This connection also explains why physical practices like yoga, martial arts, Tai Chi, and breath work are so effective at promoting emotional well-being. They engage the body in ways that release tension, restore balance, and generate clarity. They don't just offer fitness benefits. They create emotional alignment. They train you to access strength, calm, and presence through physical awareness. You become more attuned to the signals your body is sending, and you learn how to respond with intelligence instead of reactivity. When you begin to live with this awareness, you stop separating the emotional from the physical. You stop trying to treat your inner world like it exists in isolation. You realize that every emotional pattern is reinforced or disrupted by what's happening in your body. And that gives you access to change in any moment, not just through thought, but through motion, breath, and posture. Most people grow up believing that happiness is something they'll find at the end of a long road, that it's a destination waiting for them once they achieve enough, earn enough, fix enough, or prove enough. They're taught that happiness lies in the next milestone, the next relationship, the next big win. So they chase it. They work harder, push further, do more, hoping that once they arrive at a certain point, everything will finally click into place. But what they often find is that the finish line keeps moving. They get the thing they thought would make them happy, and the feeling is either fleeting or missing altogether. That's because happiness isn't something you arrive at. It's something you practice. It's not buried in the future. It's built in the present through the choices you make, the habits you develop, and the perspective you carry. You don't stumble upon happiness like finding a lost object. You cultivate it like a garden, daily, intentionally, patiently. It's not passive. It's active. And it's not reserved for perfect people with perfect lives. It's available to anyone who is willing to train their focus, shape their emotions, and develop the discipline to live fully awake. The idea that happiness is a practice challenges the way most people structure their lives. If you believe it's a destination, you'll delay your joy until the circumstances look right. You'll postpone peace until the debt is gone, the weight is lost, the relationship is healed, the goal is achieved. And in the meantime, you'll carry stress, comparison, pressure, and dissatisfaction like a second skin. But if you recognize that happiness is something you do, not something you find, then everything changes. Suddenly, you can access it in the middle of the mess. You can experience it even as you work toward more. You no longer need life to be perfect to feel alive. Practicing happiness doesn't mean ignoring problems or denying pain. It means learning how to hold space for both progress and gratitude. It means deciding that your emotional state won't be held hostage by external conditions. Life will always be unpredictable. There will be traffic, missed calls, failed plans, and heavy moments. But when happiness becomes a practice, you're not thrown off course by every obstacle. You learn how to return to center again and again. You build emotional agility. You develop tools that bring you back into alignment with what matters. One of the most powerful aspects of practicing happiness is understanding that it's rooted in presence. So many people live in their heads, rehearsing the past or projecting into the future. But joy, peace, and meaning only exist in the now. When you practice being fully present, whether in a conversation, a walk, a meal, or a moment of stillness, you step into the only space where happiness can be experienced. It's not just about doing more of what feels good. It's about slowing down enough to actually feel what you're doing. It's about noticing the texture of life, the subtle beauty, the small wins that get lost in the rush. Happiness as a practice also means prioritizing what fuels you, even when it's inconvenient. It means choosing rest when hustle feels easier, choosing connection when isolation feels safer, choosing movement when stillness breeds stagnation. These are micro decisions that shape your internal landscape. You don't have to overhaul your entire life to feel better. You just need to build practices that make room for peace, That might be journaling, walking, meditating, dancing, praying, or laughing with people you love. What matters is that it's done deliberately, not randomly, because repetition creates rhythm and rhythm creates stability. Another element of practicing happiness is learning how to manage your internal dialogue. Your thoughts shape your feelings, and your feelings shape your behavior. If you walk through life with a mind that's constantly judging, criticizing, or comparing, happiness will feel out of reach no matter what's going on externally. But if you train your mind to look for what's working, to speak to yourself with compassion, to challenge limiting beliefs, then you open the door to a different emotional experience. This takes effort, awareness, and patience. But it's worth it because it puts your emotional well-being back in your own hands. There's also a deeply personal part of this practice, which involves redefining what happiness means to you. Not society's version, not your family's version, not the version on social media, your version. What actually brings you peace, what genuinely fills your heart, what makes you feel most yourself. Practicing happiness means giving yourself permission to pursue that life. Not the life that looks impressive, but the one that feels aligned. And that alignment comes from listening inward, often in the quiet, away from the noise of the world. People often ask why happiness doesn't last. The answer is that it was never meant to be a static state. It ebbs and flows like energy, like breath. It's not a permanent destination. It's a set of rituals, a collection of thoughts, a pattern of responses. And like any practice, it requires consistency, intention, and grace. You don't need to be perfect to be happy. You just need to keep showing up for yourself over and over, one moment at a time. One breath at a time, one choice at a time. Happiness isn't something that just happens to you. It's not locked inside a future event, buried beneath a promotion, or waiting at the end of a perfect relationship. It's something you create moment by moment through small decisions and daily practices that align your body, your mind, and your spirit. When you practice gratitude, you reclaim your focus from lack and return it to abundance. When you move your body with intention, you access the strength and energy already within you. When you stop chasing giant leaps and start taking small, consistent actions, you build real and lasting change. When you recognize how deeply your emotional life is tied to your physical state, you stop trying to think your way into a better feeling, you embody it. And when you treat happiness as a daily discipline instead of a distant reward, you stop waiting for life to feel good and start living well right here and now. This is your invitation to stop waiting, to stop overcomplicating, to step into your power, not with force, but with intention. The path to a more joyful, energized, and fulfilling life isn't far away. It's right in front of you. It's in your habits, your breath, your posture, your perspective. It's in the next choice you make and the one after that. So take it, own it, live it.